Hello, my name is Stephen Borders. I'm the owner of a 2015 Super Crew F-150 with the 5.5 foot bed. What we're going to be showing today is the installation of a Peragon aluminum tonneau cover. It's a cover that's been out for a little while, but it's becoming popular because of its design. Aluminum, it folds up into the bed, gives you a nice flush cover. A couple of things I like about it are you can open the tailgate without opening the cover, or you can open the cover without opening the tailgate, so you have access without having to go through extra steps. There were a couple of complaints with it, and for some these were deal breakers. One, you had to drill holes through the lip of the bed in order to mount the cover. Many people felt like that this was doing damage to their truck. It's just some small holes to mount the brackets, but again, for them it was too much. So what we're going to be showing is the new clamping system. It gives you 3 clamps on each side to mount the rails to the truck without drilling any holes. So we're able to remove the cover if we want to without any evidence of it being there. And the other complaint was you had to adjust the rails to the mounts using washers. And for some that felt just a little bit too inexact, and they didn't like that. Well, this requires no washers to mount the rails to it. You simply adjust the hinges up or down, or the clamps up or down, to get the fit you need. And so we're going to be showing how this works, what we think about it, the good and the bad, and a good honest review and an installation. So let's get started. So, of course you should follow the instructions, guys. I know how hard that is sometimes, but try doing that, because the nice thing about it is they tell you where to start. Start here and you're going bag to bag to bag. Now with the clamping system you get a supplementary set of instructions. So when you get to the point of mounting the attachment points or putting the mounts in the truck, you're going to switch over to the clamping instructions, install those by the instructions, and then go back. So it tells you that this replaces pages 12 and 13 of the original instructions. So you keep them handy, so when you get to that point you can do it. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to install or put together the railing system for the truck. And that uses brackets to attach the header to the side rail. So make sure that you've got the driver and the passenger. So we're upside down, driver's over here, passenger's over here. You can tell one end from the other is that it's got a pre-installed stud on it. That's the side that goes toward the header. Or you can look and the name is up at the front. So the header, the name would be toward you or toward this header rail, and you'd put it together like that. You've also got a seal for the header that's got to be installed, so you're going to need some alcohol for that to clean the header off before you stick that on. So we're going to go ahead and put this together. We'll probably speed the video up through it. And again, nothing replaces follow the instructions. So let's get started on this.
Rolling.
So we got our brackets. Again, the long one goes with the release, goes on the passenger side. You put a plastic spacer on, then your header, and then the smaller bracket goes on the driver's side. Make sure you've got these seated all the way down in there and square. Then put your plastic piece, and then the long lip goes pointed up and toward the rails or toward the brackets. Try to get your rails as square as possible. Now I'm doing this in the yard because I don't want to lay these on the blacktop, but you could lay them on the blanket or other soft surface to prevent scratching them, because they are powder coated, so they should be pretty durable, but don't want to damage it before you ever get it put on. And just kind of snug them up so that if you need to change angles you can without having to take them back loose, and then you can tighten everything up once you get it put in the truck. Okay, so the next step is to put your ramps in, and the ramps are what help guide the cover when you open it so that it'll fold up like an accordion. So the easiest way, I've already done one, is go ahead and put your bolts through from the bottom up and put a nut on it. You don't have to tighten it up, just run it down till it stops. Then the other one, same way, the thread's pointing up on the ramp. Then you take, and with the angled part toward what would be the rear of the truck, you slide that into the guide, fitting the nuts in. Now, I found the easiest thing to do is go ahead and tighten up the rear nut, holding the ramp in place, and then tighten the front one, because if you tighten the front one first, then it tends to kind of move around from where you want it. So just take a wrench. Unless you're got a real feather touch, I wouldn't use power tools. And just snug that bolt down. And the edge of the ramp fits just inside the cutout. So you hold that in there, snug your bolt, and then once you've got that one done, you can go ahead and do the front one. So all the parts and pieces for the first steps for putting the rails together are in that first pocket that tell you where to start. And when you use all those pieces, you're ready to go on to the next step. Now, on the stock cover, you would go with the rails that mount in, so you'd be measuring and drilling holes. But since we have the clamp system, we're going to move on to that. Just putting the front seal on, and of course this is going to allow, or to prevent, it's going to help prevent water from intruding into the system. And so you want to go from this edge of the rail all the way over, because you want as much protection as possible. So the first thing you're going to do is clean that with some isopropyl alcohol, paper towel, or one of your wife's makeup pads or something. Get it good and wet, and rub this lip down to get any oil and grease residue off of it, so that the seal will stick and won't come loose. Now, you don't want it to be too cold when you do this. It's a little warm here today, so you want to make sure it's pretty snug, because when it cools off, it's going to shrink, and you don't want it to shrink and leave you with a big gap. So you're going to make it pretty snug in there. Just peel the tape off the back, align it as you go, and you should be good. Don't press it down until you're sure you've got it in the spot that it needs to be. And press it all the way down and go all the way to the end. And stop. So the last piece of the rails, putting the rails together, is you got these 4 end covers. There's 4 of them, one on each end. They're molded together, 2 each, so you have to take a razor blade or a knife or a pair of scissors and cut them apart. And you just insert them into the rail. There's 2 little nubs that fit inside some grooves, and then put a single Phillips head screw. It's a small Phillips, so you just simply put that in and tighten it up, and you put one on each one. And you want to do that. The back ones you could get on after the fact, but the front ones you have to put on first. So that's the last part of the rails. I've already put the other 3 in. That gives it a finished look, and then seals against the bottom of the bed. Okay, so I've already installed 5 of the clamps. There's 6. You want to install the front and rear as far forward and back as you can, and then the middle one as close to the middle as possible. It's going to give you the most strength. So to install them, you just simply loosen them up enough to slip them up in the rail, and you want to mount the top of the bracket to the top of the bed rail cover, and then you just tighten them up. If there are any obstacles, you can move it forward or back, or if it's a bed liner or something that's getting in the way from where you want to put it, you could actually trim it. The hardest part about putting these on are trying to keep them straight while you tighten them. You could take a pair of pliers or a wrench or something and put in it, But what I found is that with the plastic bed cap, they're pretty easy to adjust once you get them tightened up. So you want to get it mounted flush with the top of the rail, and then tighten it up, and it should be good.
Go.
So to attach the rails to the brackets, you have to slide 3 of these 1/4-inch bolts into the rail slides. You got to do 1 from the front and 2 from the back because you can't slide it past the ramp. So just lift it up, insert it, and then do the other 2. And once you get them all in the slots, then you can put the nuts and washers in them and see if everything's going to fit right. If it doesn't, then you may have to do some adjustments to your rails to make sure everything fits. Put those in, then you got a flat washer and a nut on each one, and then what I would do is just snug everything down until you get the cover in and test fit it, and then you can go back and tighten everything up. But if you have to adjust the tabs, you can do it by taking a pair of vice grips or a pair of pliers, and then the instructions say to put a screwdriver through this one of these holes to keep it from moving the bracket, and then adjust your tab up or down as needed. And it says it should be about a 1-degree angle, which from what I've seen is pretty close to what it ends up when you put them on. So they've either pre-adjusted them or they've done a lot of testing on them. And then what you can do is also take your fingers and push the seal out, the front seal out, so they'll seal against the bed rail and help keep the water out. Okay. So then all we got to do is square it up, make sure it's adjusted right, and tighten everything down and put our cover in. Okay, so a couple of steps here that I did off camera. You have to mount these brackets onto the front panel, and it may mount on different holes depending on which cover you have. But these are for the gas springs or gas shocks that hold it closed, and then you push against when you open it. So there's one on each side. So that's one thing. Another thing is that they've added these bumpers that go between the panels. So what they're designed to do is keep the panels apart when you're riding with it folded up. So you just take the strap and tie it shut so that it can't rattle, and then these bumpers will keep the panels from rubbing together. Then one last thing is on your ramps, there's 2 adjusting screws. Those adjusting screws are for setting your ramps in or out so that the panels wheels ride on them, the panel rollers ride on them when you're opening and closing it. So you want to adjust those after you get the cover in. You put the cover on and make sure that the rollers ride up it all the way in the middle so they don't come off the rail. So that's just a couple things. Next, we're going to put the cover in. Okay, so lastly, to put it in, because I've got a bed liner in here, I'm having a little trouble getting it past the rail, so I went ahead and did that. You put it in at an angle, put in the driver's side in first, and then you want to move it back and get it locked into the pin. And still, again, with the bed liner, it makes it a little harder because the pin in the driver's side doesn't want to fit into the rail. So you put that in first, slide that pin in, and then the other side just snaps in place, and there you go. And then the last thing you do is mount your springs. Okay, so with the bed liner in mind, it takes up some space that you need to be able to put the shocks in. So I had to close mine, compress the shocks, and put them in. Now, if you're going to keep a plastic bed liner in, you probably need to trim some spaces out where it's going to fit, where your rails are going to be, and all that. But I'm planning on removing it and putting in a bed rug. So my advice would be, if you're going to use a plastic bed liner, go ahead and trim it out. It'll work better without it, but it'll certainly work with it. You just need to trim it in some spots, or do like I did and install the shocks while it's closed, and then or cut you some spaces out in the front so that the shocks will fit, because it may keep it from opening all the way. But it really doesn't matter to me. Like I said, I'm going to remove it at some point. So there it is, installed. And then to close it, grab the strap and pull it, and it closes. You close your tailgate. Now the last thing is, if you've got any space, like I've got right here, I've got a little bit of space between the cover and my tailgate that would let water in. So the easiest thing to do would be, while the cover is closed, loosen the bolts that hold the cover to the mounts, slide it back, and then snug everything back up. And that's it for your Peragon liner. And then you have a nice covered bed ready to go. Okay, so I've had it on for a week. What I really like about it is it makes no noise. So it really is a nice cover. You'd think with all the metal that it might rattle a little bit, but it doesn't rattle at all. I like that I can open the tailgate and close it without having to open the cover, or I can open the cover without opening the tailgate. Now, a couple things about it. If you're somebody that is in and out of the back of your truck all the time, having to open the cover, it is aluminum, so it does get hot. I recommend keeping a towel around to open it with, and when you first put it in, it's kind of tough to open. But at any rate, I love the way it looks. It looks nice and smooth. Like I said, it doesn't make any noise, but if you're one that has to be in and out of the truck a lot, or you're really short, this can be hard to deal with. Maybe I don't have it locked. Maybe I locked it. Okay. Takes a lot of effort to open it at first. I'm guessing after it's in there a while, or when it's colder outside, it will open better. Now, one of the issues with the bed liner, I talked about it earlier, is that because of the way the bed liner is made up in the corner, it won't close all the way. So you've got these gaps, and it leaves you with a lot of space taken up because of it. Like I said, if you don't open it a lot and you don't really need access to the bed a lot, it's not a big deal, but it does, the bed liner does get in the way. So a spray-in liner or a bed rug is going to be a better option, or nothing, if you're going to be in and out of the bed a lot. Like I said, I'll probably rarely ever open it. I just wanted a nice smooth cover so I could secure stuff inside and keep it mostly dry. So I'm actually going to pull the bed liner out though, and then we'll see the difference in how it works without the bed liner, and you can make your own judgment from that. But like I said, this thing is aluminum, so it gets hot. So if you're having to open and close it a lot, you might want something that you can open from the inside. But for me, this is the best looking, the best working option for me, and I really like it. So I'm going to take it back off, take the bed liner out of it, and let's see how it works that way. Okay, so here's the problem. This little area where they space it out for you to get to your tie downs is what's interfering with the top closing all the way. And this little hump right here affects the adjustment on your rails. So, you know, if you're going to use this with a bed liner and open it a lot and want it to open all the way, you're going to have to trim those areas out. If you're like me and don't really plan on opening it a lot or hauling a lot of stuff in your truck, then it really isn't going to matter that much. But I'm going to remove the bed liner. We'll see how much better it works. Okay, so I got to hurry and do this. It's starting to rain. Took the bed liner out. As you can see, the cover folds up a lot better. It adjusts better, it rides better, so it works better without a bed liner. It can be made to work with it, but you're going to have to cut some holes in it to make it fit right. The clamping system is a really good idea. I like the clamping system. I would have been fine with a bolt-on, but the clamping makes it quicker and again addresses some of the concerns people had for drilling holes in their truck. So it makes for a lot nicer option. A couple of tips real quick. When you get ready to put your rails on, adjust them, close your tailgate and run it till this tab on this cover runs against your tailgate. That'll get you a tighter fit to start with, and you'll be able to, you won't have to do as much adjusting after the fact. So there it is. Works a lot better, closes smoother, and it was easier to get the shocks in. So there it is, your Peragon liner, or Peragon bed cover with no bed liner.